Why should I pay for someone else's health care? I used to see this question and fairly often and hear it as well. Why should I pay for someone else's health care? People who ask this question don't seem to realize that they're already paying for everyone else's health care, but that's a different story, and we'll cover that later. What we'll talk about today is how the very people who post this type of complaint are the very people who cause America's healthcare problems. It's your fault people are sick. Pay up, Betty boy. If you don't like it, stop supporting the things that make Americans use so damn much healthcare in the first place. What do libertarians / Republicans / right-wing Christians / etc. What do they do that makes America? It's pretty simple. It's one thing. They put corporations and companies above people. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Prioritizing companies, corporations, and businesses over people, the planet, and even pets, actually. But we won't go into the second two. We'll just talk about the first. So these people vote and think and act and talk as though if there were 7 rich corporations left to do corporate stuff for 50 living humans left on the planet, that capitalism would have once again proved its merit by working for the utter glory of all 50 people left. Now, admittedly, I don't care much for the left-wing complaint that corporations put profits over people. Of course they do. They are literally required by law to put the interests of shareholders over the interests of anyone and anything else. So, corporations, businesses, and employers already pay for a lot of American healthcare, thanks to the quirk of American economic and political history that occurred long before you were born. That's because they were, at one point, allowed to attract workers by offering healthcare benefits, but not by raising wages. That was back during FDR. So, if stuff like that can happen in America, there is no reason to favor corporations over actual people in the law, policy, or government. And yet, these why should I pay for someone else's healthcare whiners do just that. America has a long history, long before Ronald Reagan, and corporations were not always considered the most important things in America. But putting the interests of corporations over the interests of people is a big reason why Americans get so fucking sick these days in such a costly way. It's not the only reason, but it's an important reason. And that reason is hardly ever reported in the medical / government / academic pharmaceutical media. So, how exactly do corporations make Americans sick? Well, you can probably guess, but let's hit a few highlights. Americans die of heart disease, cancer, medical error, and various forms of sudden death like suicide, gun violence, car accidents, drug overdoses, etc. These deaths, and deaths from a few other chronic illness disease and lower respiratory disease like COPD, they make up the bulk of deaths. Oh, dementia would be the other thing. So what causes heart disease, cancer, and these related chronic illnesses, including being implicated in dementia? So is it the individual's fault that they get these chronic diseases? Each individual person is too fat and doesn't get enough exercise and their diet is crap. All these things within a person's control. All they have to do, all you have to do, I have to do, get slim, work out, and eat your low-calorie vegetables, right? Nope. To be fair to the libertarians, a lot of it is genetics, and neither you nor I nor the right-wingers can control. But most of the things that are supposedly under an individual's control are. How do we know this? Because the things that the medical establishment has been telling us to do for over 60 years, they don't work. We know they don't work because people are still keeling over from the same damn things in spite of doing the things as best they can that the government / medical / pharmaceutical blah, blah, blah tells them to do. And so if these things that we're supposed to do to keep ourselves from having healthcare costs don't work, if something else is causing them, why are we paying for them at all? Shouldn't the corporations who profit from the things that make us sick pay? Well, let's see. Corporations don't mention that environmental factors are a big deal in your risk for heart disease, cancer, respiratory disease, metabolic disease, etc. For example, your environment is saturated with chemicals. You can't do anything about that. Your clothes are permeated with chemicals. Your clothes, the stuff against your skin. Did you ask for that? No, you did not. I hope you did not ask for that. But corporations do it anyway because they think it is good for their shareholders, who they don't think will die of heart disease and cancer because they're rich. Hello? Rich people die of cancer and heart disease too, so everybody's going to die of this stuff. Some shareholders are just going to be rich before they kill them. So putting the financial health of the shareholder class above the physical health of everyone else on the planet helps people get chronic, expensive diseases that, you guessed it, are good for the shareholders of the corporations that make money off of chronic, expensive diseases. However, those chemicals in your environment, some of which are endocrine disrupting, cause all sorts of mischief in your body, including difficulty reproducing over time. So you don't die short and sweet like people did in the old days. No, you linger on very excited. Thanks to the corporations that those healthcare hating whiners always seem so keen to bend the knee to. So let's just take the example of obesity, fatness. Medical establishment is always whining about how fat we are. Big contributor. Soda pop. Who benefits from selling you soda pop? Big corporations. Soda is cheaper for Americans than water or anything nutritious. Rational consumers in economic sense are going to buy soda pop because it is a cheaper source of calories than those damn cans of carrots and spinach and whatever cans that are laced, it turns out, with chemicals that make you fat. And how about those marvelous corporation enriching phones that lure people away from all that exercising they're supposed to be doing? Or McDonald's being heart disease friendly and wallet friendly at the same time? Or the absolute tsunami of ultra processed foods that we're all surrounded with that make everyone fat? Or your cortisol pumps you full of fatness induced cortisol and keeps you up all night worrying about stupid emails so that you don't get a restful night's sleep so that you get fat. Everything I've mentioned so far benefits corporations and the economy, but drives up the cost of healthcare for you, me, and everyone else. So, pay up, buddy boy, you people who, why should I have to pay? Because you're the ones that support the policies that make all this happen. You want the benefits of the economy you espouse, you're going to pay the healthcare costs too. And don't give me no tripe about personal responsibility. You love personal responsibility, huh? So pay your fucking share of the overhead for the lifestyle you've dedicated yourself to forcing on the rest of us. So supposedly about 60% of Americans have a chronic disease. If more than half the people in the country suffers from something, personal responsibility isn't going to cut it. It's systemic, expensively systemic. Supposedly, about 40% of Americans have 2 or more chronic diseases. So what's a chronic disease? A disease that requires the involvement of the medical, industrial, pharmaceutical complex for more than a year. Convenient, isn't it? Is it any wonder Americans lack trust in their institutions? Except, of course, for the buddy boys who whine about paying for someone else's health care. They may not trust in God nearly as much as they say they do, but they sure do trust in capitalism and corporations. Doctors, who are increasingly being bought out by private equity, they know this. They know that what they see day in, day out is systemic. They know the same system that benefits companies makes actual people poor. And they know that poor people get sicker more often. Doctors know that people can't afford to eat right, that they can't afford housing, and that's on the budget. Meanwhile, pharma coddling in the U.S. leads to hundreds of thousands of medication-related deaths in America each. The U.S. races toward the lead preventable deaths each year and usually comes in first among developed nations. Other countries have figured out how to make medical care a lot less expensive, partly because they don't buy into the economic doctrines espoused by the libertarian Betty boys. So you broke it, Betty, you bought it. And that's just fatness and chronic disease. I haven't even gotten into air pollution and climate change. Air pollution literally puts people in the hospital, which, is expensive. Can you personal responsibility your way out of air pollution? Well, you could try moving to the countryside if you can afford it, except, oh, wait, the rural areas of the U.S. are just as unhealthy. Why? Pesticides, agricultural runoff in their water, high poverty rates, lack of access to medical care, high stress rates, lack of recreational facilities, lack of job opportunities, and so on. And there are other environmental factors that make Americans sick, like noise pollution, a big driver of heart disease. Extreme temperatures, extreme heat, and extreme cold are both implicated in heart disease, and both are getting worse due to climate change. Toxic metals, yes, it's not just industrial chemicals and plastics, it's also industrial metals that seep into the soil, the water, the air. Many of them drive up both heart disease and cancer rates, and you can't personal responsibility your way out of any of these factors. Shouldn't the entities that are responsible pay for the healthcare costs their behavior causes? So, you want to deny climate change? Got the EPA, toxin spewing data centers everywhere? You can damn well pay for the medical costs your policies demand. You know what else drives up healthcare costs? Stress. The stress of the American system and American values that put, corporations over people. Things like economic inequality that lead to poverty and homelessness, gun violence, racism, overwork and job instability, lack of worker protections. If you support these things, and many of the buddy boys seem to, then you can pay for them. There is no free fucking lunch, you would-be moochers. So, if you're pretty fed up paying for other people's health care, feel free to start fixing the things your ideas broke. Thank you.